call to order the Board of Education special meeting annual retreat, July 16th. Thank you. 2013 at 6:05. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
Mrs. Campagnano. Here. Mr. Habanero. Mrs. Hona here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Marola here. Mr. Nargi.
Here.
Mr. Romero. Too late. Mr. T-Balt.
Here.
Mr. Trout.
Here.
Mrs. Batchelder not here. Mr. Capolito not here. Mrs. Clacco. Here. Mayor Bingham not here. That's it.
I think just for the minutes, none of the administration is required to be at this board retreat, so the fact that they're not here is not an absence of their duties. Thank you. Okay. Board of Education goal setting. It is the responsibility of leadership to sit down with the superintendent and to negotiate or to unilaterally develop some goals for the board and the superintendent to have. However, I requested that the board members, as I did last year for 5 months, send me their suggested goals in an email, and I received one from Dan, one from Vincent, and I didn't get anything else. So I did not sit down with the superintendent, and I did not. So we have an hour while we wait for Shipman and Goodwin that we can all just sit here and stare at each other. We really don't have anything to discuss.
We set goals.
Well, we do have something. Dan made a suggestion. What was
Yes.
Dan's suggestion?
Dan's suggestion on board goal number 1 should be that we implement board goal number 1 of last year, the unification of secondary education. His board goal number 2 was to keep up our 3-year sustainable budget plan. And I was doing that for now.
Very good.
Year 3 was create a district-wide grading policy, standards for what all in-class work, homework, quiz, test, and exams, where applicable, will be worth for the student grades and eliminate the variance between teachers and classes. Board goal number 4 was establish a board policy that requires all building and facility upgrades to be engineer designed for long-term lowest operational cost and set some guidelines for best practices to standardize all buildings going forward.
You said the last one again.
The last one is establish a board policy that requires all building and facility upgrades to be engineer designed for long-term lowest operational cost and set some guidelines for best practices to standardize all buildings going forward.
I did. I was gonna right after you sent the email.
Because I got one right after. I saw your face. Yes.
think all his suggestions are excellent suggestions. I don't know if we, as a board, do we want to go one by one and discuss those as far as what his, you know, where we think we can improve on any one of those topics? You know, break it down.
I really would have liked everybody to submit their individual thoughts of board goals so that they don't bitch later that we're not doing what they want, we're only doing what certain members want. It would have been nice for everyone to do their electoral responsibility and submit it.
I mean, what were you gonna do with it if we submitted it, if we submit our ideas tonight versus 6 months ago, or 5 months ago, or 2 months ago? What's the difference? We're here together now let's talk about it.
Well, then we'll just do it anyway.
Well, I mean, that's why
What do
we're
you want
here,
to talk
isn't it?
about? Carl's
Well,
goal was, as for goals, I think raising elementary student achievement on the state test course should be a goal. Another would be bring out-of-district students back into Torrington, which means creating more programs that students want to come here for. Those were Carl's two goals.
Just starting points.
That's all we have. Mr. Marola's was. He wanted F1 executive session training, which we have. That's all I have.
From me?
Yeah, you asked about the, to do FOI executive session training,
Right.
but it didn't list any goals.
Pretty sure, maybe it might not have been that email, but I know I mentioned Board of Education bylaws.
Well, I was gonna bring that one up anyway, because
Okay.
it's something that we've been talking about since November. We haven't gotten to it.
So are the goals meant to be just yearly? Like, would we go through this exercise yearly, or are they meant to be kind of like a 3-year plan, or goals that would be, take longer than a year to implement?
Well, traditionally, they're 1 year. It's what we as the board evaluate the superintendent's efficiency on is how the board goals have been met, how the district's been moved to where the board wants to see the district be at. We did add the 3-year budget last year to try to be a little more forward-thinking instead of just, thinking inside of a shoebox, looking more at a refrigerator box. So it doesn't mean that we couldn't propose a long-term goal and short-term goals. So, there traditionally was 4 or 5. Last year, we limited it to 3. We can have as many or as few as we would like. Yes.
Might be a good idea to review what we had last year and where we got on those goals that we had last year. To see
Okay.
if we haven't met them, we probably shouldn't replace them until we meet them.
So I was gonna say like 5 goals, 2 long-term, 3 short-term, so you kind of have 2 that you're working towards over the span of however long it would take to design and implement, and then 3 that you're kind of focusing on in the near term, even if they're subsets of the other ones.
Steps to get here.
Correct.
This current year, our goals, goal number 1 was to align the secondary education program to provide continuation of services in grades 6 through 12. Its 5 main points were to reorganize grades 6 through 12 administrative responsibility and to provide a continuum of practice between TMS and THS. Number 2 is to continue development of curriculum based upon the Common Core standards that will provide a more rigorous course selection for students. Number 3 was increase the number/percent of students in grades 6 through 12 participating in more rigorous coursework, including but not limited to honors, TMS, at TMS and algebra, biology, etc., early college credit courses such as honors, AP, and UConn, internship and apprentice opportunities with local businesses and nonprofits, certifications for special classes including EMT, CNA, etc., and expanding the online learning program for all students. Number 4 was reduce the rate of students at risk for being retained in grade 9 and dropping out of school through the development of alternative initiatives through multi-platform learning opportunities that provide students with the opportunity to solve a real-world problem while working with a practicing professional. And number 5 was reduce the number of discipline issues by implementing a common behavior program for students in grades 6 through 12, implementing a common language with specific directions resulting in expected outcomes. Goal number 2 was design and implement a 3-year sustainable budget, produce a 3-year budget, operating budget, fiscally responsible and prepares all of the students of Torrington with the skills to be college and career ready, produce a 3-year operating budget that supports district initiatives and meets the requirements of state and mandated reforms, provide a 3-year capital budget that includes a facility review once every 5 years, maintain a budget plan that reviews and monitors revenues and expenses, maintain a balanced budget for each fiscal year. And under policies and bylaws, review and edit all current policies and the Board of Education bylaws for consistency in practice and continue to post them on the Torrington Public School website for community information. Complete the gap analysis of current policies. We go down from number 1, the reorganization of grades 6 through 12 administrative responsibilities, I believe, is done. Continue the development of curriculum based upon the Common Core standards. The curriculum is reviewed every summer. They have a 3-year revolving review. Increase the number/percent of students, grades 6 through 12, participating in more rigorous courses. I believe at the budget we showed that we have the highest number of honors, UConn, and AP classes that we've ever had. I believe we increased the online learning in this year's budget as well.
Want to slow down and maybe we talk about some of these?
Sure.
I mean, this is your belief. For
Okay.
example, more rigorous coursework. Superintendent, have we eliminated courses since the end of last year for next year, i.e. has a calculus course been eliminated that was traditionally taught in the school?
If, well, right now, to my knowledge, no. I do not know if the calculus class has been eliminated because
Well,
no, I will wait for when, we've already sent out, students signed up, we sent out tentative schedules, and once that's finally put together, then I receive it from the high school informing me if, you know, exactly what schedule, what classes are offered and how many kids are in each class.
And then I guess that kind of goes to number 1, you said that we reorganized administrative responsibilities. Who actually would be giving you that information at this time?
Probably someone from the guidance counselor and the person who works with them in making the schedule.
So was that
That was
something that
completed.
used to be communicated to you by the principal?
No, I mean, it could be communicated, the principal, in the past, the principal, guidance people, and a special secretary who understands how to do the scheduling, okay? And this year was also the AP, Dr. Jeffrey, good name, Shannon, thank you, created the schedule. So they sent it home with the progress reports. That's something that's never been done before this year, so that students could review it. And if there's any questions, we set it up so there's a guidance counselor in the building almost every week during the summer. So if students have any questions, they can call, make an appointment, you know, fix their schedule, and then when the final one comes out, instead of waiting till the students return back to school, it should be completed. Anybody with questions?
And again, I go back, I don't know the think it was Leone's first year, where he told the board that one of his priorities was that all students, on the day that they were to leave for vacation, they would know their class assignments for the
They
next year.
did, they went home with their final report cards, their
So-
class assignments.
And we're still dealing with the grievances,
Okay.
And the other piece too is a student may get a final, schedule, and if they're reviewing it with, an adult family member or something like that, and then they say, well, why aren't you taking this, or then there's questions, they have the summer to meet with a guidance counselor to adjust the schedule. So once that's all done, then I will get the report of who's taken what courses.
But, just a point of order, what does a past superintendent's goal have to do with this superintendent's goals and this board's goals?
Well, only,
What Mr. Leone wanted has absolutely nothing to do with this group sitting right here. He's not here anymore.
I understand that, but
So then it's
it
irrelevant.
was accepted that by the board that was a practice that would take place.
Under that superintendent.
I don't think that every time we get a new superintendent, we expect board goals and objectives to be just summarily dismissed, and we start with a whole new
We only go by the
philosophy.
bylaws, the policies, and the goals set by the board that year. You can't expect a new incoming superintendent to do a 25-year board goal search and make sure that all those goals are happily married along. If the board didn't turn it into a policy so that it stayed, then that's shame on the board. That shouldn't be shame on the superintendent.
I think that if,
But this is the first year students receive them in their final report card. They have
Okay.
never received them before till sometime during the summer.
then I guess I was somewhat misled, because I was pretty certain that when I asked the question, I think 3 years ago, it was told to me as a board member that that was accomplished. So you're telling me now that this is only going to be the first year in which this has actually been
That went
implemented?
home, that went home in their report card. I was not superintendent 3 years
I'm
ago.
not-
No, but I'm saying, but that was, I started pushing last November so that the students could look at course offerings, get them in, make sure, that they were done, completed. I wanted it to happen before going home in the final report card, but we did make the final report card. Usually they would get them in July, August, and then it would be a concern that parents would be hitting the schools 2 weeks before school opened to readjust their child's schedule. We pushed it back, so they got them in June. And I also asked, because we have guidance counselors working, and usually they would come in the last 2 weeks before school was to open, I requested this year that they stagger their time through the summer, so there was always a guidance counselor in the high school to be on call. Not the secretary, not an administrator, because students make their schedules with their guidance counselor.
What are the actual percentage of board goal number 3, increase number of percent of students? How much did you increase the participation rate in these classes?
I don't have that, but this is not my eval tonight, so I didn't bring that kind of information.
Well, we went
with
from
me.
33 to 35 in this year
With,
of courses offered that were AP,
courses offered, yeah.
UConn. There was an increase in the number of courses offered.
Does that equate to more students participating? Well, it doesn't necessarily follow, but does it?
I don't know, what we had, that report was given to us during budget of the number of students in each program and the number of courses that were offered. I don't have that with me tonight either, but
I can go get it.
we were given
if you
one
Is the point,
back in April.
are we just discussing these, or are we supposed to be,
No, we're supposed to be formulating our goals for this year.
for this year,
Yeah.
based on these were the goals for?
Well, there was just a request to review last year's.
I had
Right.
just said, if we haven't met them, we shouldn't just take them off and create new ones.
Right. But we don't know if we've met these because we know we've increased 2 courses, but again, it doesn't, it's not causal that means that more kids were, the goal was to get more kids to participate, not, the goal wasn't to increase the number of offerings, right?
It was actually both, so that they had greater choice.
Okay, but we don't know that, so we don't know if the goal's been met, is my point. Is that fair to say? I mean, we're trying to drive more kids to higher level courses.
And we're
And we-
looking to increase, right now we have 4 levels at the high school.
Yeah.
And we're looking to reduce to 2. Because students need to, but that would be something that is for next year. That would be a goal to be considered.
What would the 2 be?
Well, once we,
College prep and honors, anything honors and above. Because the directive now, mandate, whatever you want to call it, is that all students have to be college and career ready.
Would be eliminating general?
one of the thought processes behind joining 6 through 12 was that it would increase the ability to move, as most school districts in the area, biology is an 8th grade class, algebra is an 8th grade class. Southington, Berlin, Avon, they all go chemistry in their freshman year because they do biology, or they do earth science in their 8th grade class. I think I said biology, I take that back. They do earth science in 8th grade, they do chemistry because they did algebra in 8th grade, and algebra and chemistry are closely tied, and then they do biology in their sophomore year, but they've all taken the traditional, what Torrington has always had as a freshman class, and all those school districts have moved that to 8th grade to allow more of the higher level classes for kids to get to. And the problem we had was the stumbling block of that's high school, that's middle school. Now that we're one school, you have the ability to offer any course anywhere on, you have 2 campuses, 1 school.
Right,
You
that
can
was-
move
And you
any
don't-
course to anywhere.
And you don't have to offer, like right now, in the middle school, we offer honors courses. So we're, say, honors science or something like that, where you could be more specific and offer the next higher level course. And then and earn credit. That's the critical, like this year we had a student who took honors geometry as an 8th grader. But just how separate our schools are is that here, he took the course there, got grades, but could never transpose over to the middle school to give him that grade and calculate it into his cume at the middle school. So that's, something.
So now, first of all, I don't want to seem like I'm negative here, but on the first one, you talk about reorganized grades 6 through 12, administrative responsibilities to provide a continuum of practice between TMS and THS. As we speak right now, I don't know what we're really talking about as far as I hear some type of language that the schools are joined, it's one school, we still have a middle school, we still have a high school, we have just one school, 6 through 12, and it's called what?
No, we still have 2 schools,
Okay, but-
2 physical schools.
okay,
Okay, Torrington Middle School, Torrington High School. But what we're looking to do is to make, on your elementary schools, you align pre-K through 5,
okay.
okay, which are 7 levels, 7 different grades. Now we're looking to align 6 through 12. But there'll still be a middle school, still be a high school, but practices, we want to make sure the curriculum is aligned. We want to make sure that behavioral practices are aligned. We want to make sure that the protocol, procedures, everything, grading, everything is all in a line, especially with what's required of implementing the new Common Core state standards. Everything is tied to those state standards.
And I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm just, you have such a large variation. You start from 6th grade and then you end up at 12. If they're two schools, but they're under one administrative policy, but are we going to look, does the 6th grade class, the way we discipline them and view them to be evaluated is the same as how we evaluate the 12th grader? Or is the grading policy that I had heard that the middle school last year was not in practicing our grading policy as the high school was. So the grading policy now will be uniform from 6th through 12.
And what's.
Yes.
Yes, that is my goal, or
The
your
goal is to
goal,
make them
that's
all
what
the
I would.
same.
Yeah,
It's to
but-
make discipline, grading, homework, everything.
Attendance,
Everything.
Everything.
dress.
You're gonna have
Yes.
one leader running those two campuses with one set of goals,
With us,
so that
with
there's no
an,
confusion.
with an administrator, now, I'm not saying assistant principal, with an administrator on every grade level, okay? And also a guidance counselor on every grade level.
And those administrators at the 6th grade, the assistant principal for the 6th grade will follow the same practices pertaining to what we just taught as the 12th grade
Yeah,
AP.
based on board policy, okay? Based on board policy and,
Yeah, and you know, I even before I got on the board, one of the great complaints that used to be told to me was all the grammar schools were running their ship differently. So when they all got to the middle school, the kids were coming from 5 different directions academically and from a perspective of discipline. And now I'm to believe that, I hope you're right, and I mean, I go along with this, but I mean, I find it hard to believe that you can ever get 2 assistant principals on the same page. As now we're going to have this belief we're actually gonna have all of our assistant principals on the same page. That's pretty incredible. Because it's just never worked before. I don't,
So now we
I don't
have a
think
chance to fix it and make it work.
and what's the other reason behind this is because the type of assessment, and, okay, last week the state said CMP's caps out and the Smart Balance assessment is in. This means that every student will be taking their assessment on a computer, okay? And it's also, and we showed you this year, Ms. Monaco showed you exactly what these Smarter Balance assessments look like. We'll be doing it again so that you can be familiar with the type of assessment. It's very different than the traditional, here's a quiz, I'm checking off your homework assignment. What's happening for teachers, and again, this is the reason I want people on the grade level, in the classroom, providing support. Because what the kind of instruction that teachers have to deliver and how students have to demonstrate that they are making progress to be able to perform to the standard expectation looks very different than a weekly test, a daily quiz, or homework assignments. So it just, you know, when Mr. Thibault brought up the piece about, which we call it, the district-wide grading policy, our grading policy is going to look very, very different because the state is expecting us to be looking at mastery of the standards, these Common Core standards. So I have to really this year familiarize the board with those standards and then what the assessment to measure it. That is, i.e. student achievement. They're no longer So that's
Yeah, the
a
state-
big piece.
The state legislature and House passed a law that gets rid of the Cambrian style of education. They're removing seat time and they're replacing it with mastery of content at a state level. So they're saying that the argument of you have to have so many hours in front of an instructor, if a kid can pass the class in 5 weeks, he moves on. It's mastery of content, it's no longer seat time.
And it's not only just mastery of content that if you can regurgitate information, the causes of, the Civil War or something like that. It's not. It's how can a student take information from multiple sources, summarize it, evaluate it, and then apply it to a general question. So that we're really looking at students' ability to apply knowledge, skills, and learning strategies to information and to synthesize that information and evaluate it and then be able to do a written response to it.
And how is that different from the way we were taught?
We more gave back information and specifics.
I don't understand that.
Regurgitation, okay, here,
No,
these are the three okay, I'm not gonna argue with you, Paul. I'm not, it's,
Not by the time I was in high school, in our honors classes, I did
right,
regurgitation.
right, okay.
I did
But
exactly what you were saying.
But it's requiring it of everybody, not just students in honors classes. All students have to be able to apply higher level thinking skills. That did not come into general classroom instruction until about the 1980s.
It's less
81 with the
recall of
gifted.
information than it is critically thinking about it and able to apply the information forward. If you want to think
Yeah,
about
you
that
don't
way.
give specifics back. You
Right.
think, and I can go get you the curriculum so you can see it. But it's in the 80s when gifted education first was introduced in Connecticut. That's what they were expecting students and programs to do. Right? It was not in the regular classroom. In the general classroom, it's still, you have to be able to explain why you do, why you believe what you believe, but you also have to document it with evidence. And that wasn't necessarily asked of all students unless you were in an honors course.
And this is the last question in this matter, as far as I'm concerned, which is, everything you say is very positive and it all makes sense. But when you ask what you've done to actually, in practice, set this up for this upcoming school year, how have you relayed this to the faculty so that on day one, they know everything that you're talking about and they're going to run with
And
it?
that's for another board meeting. We're here to set our goals, we're not here to discuss the reorganization, and we have to set goals. We have presenters coming in 20 minutes.
Well, she can answer it quickly. I mean, you.
No,
No, I can't.
She
I
can't.
can't, no.
we're gonna stay
And
focused, this is a special board meeting, we cannot deviate from the agenda.
What's
You
the
can't
most
go into a
important-
long-winded discussion on
Wait,
it.
no, but I'm saying, what's the most important thing that that the board wants to accomplish next year with this school system?
And you're saying that we've done it, you've done it, and I'm saying that,
No,
I'm
I'm not
implying
saying-
that you haven't relayed this to the teachers, and the teachers aren't ready for this starting September 1st, unless you're going to have some massive remedial program instituted in the
It
first
can't-
3 days.
This is the
We're-
board's goals that
That's-
we're looking at.
Yeah, exactly. And we're
So let's
saying,
move on.
she's saying we're going to reorganize. We've already started to implement this reorganization.
Do you have a suggested goal out of this?
Well, I just want to know if this is going to be effective on day one.
Then we need to set goals, Andrew. We need to focus on what our task is right now. Do you have a goal that you would like to articulate out of the conversation you had?
If, I don't see that this is not a proper goal for us to evaluate and try to work upon this goal for next year as continuing with this goal. But now let's set up some type of quantified and qualified
standards in which we will evaluate how successful she says this, her work, her new reorganization will be effective. That should be the board's goal.
So the goal that Dan proposed of the implementation of the reorganization program,
What's that?
the implementation of the reorganization.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've already said we've started the implementation. She said that we already are implementing this. Now, I don't see where in this we have any type of evaluative process or terms here to actually measure. What would be your concept of this being effective from a quantitative and a qualitative perspective? Some type of numbers
It gets down
that,
into
I mean,
points
I
4
think
and
that should be
5.
the goal. What?
Well, if you want to set that, but we're not here to evaluate her performance. We have to set,
I thought you just said that's why we set up board goals, so as to be part of the
but
evaluation
this is not her
process.
evaluation. This is the board
This is to
retreat.
set goals for next year.
This is not to evaluate the superintendent. There will be a meeting and we'll evaluate.
So if the goal from the last year was to reorganize it, then the goal for this year would be to implement it and set the benchmarks for what we're looking for from the implementation.
Okay, so
Correct.
you're saying that would be our goal for next year, is the benchmarks.
Right.
And what are the benchmarks?
So if you're, I mean, you can look at it on points 4 and 5. So the point of having kind of the continuous school, if you want to think of it that way, like reduce the rate of students from being at risk, because they're going to have one AP that would move through them with middle school, and you have the transitional principal in 9th grade. So in theory, that's a way to evaluate her, is that the purpose of doing that is to reduce the students at risk of being retained in 9th grade for making it one campus, 2 physical schools.
And what would be your number as far as that being successful? Reduction 5%, 10%, 30%? Just set a number. I mean, you said you thought about this.
I mean, I would say between 5 and 10% would probably be achievable within a year, and then it can build from there as we go through the setting
Say
process
3 to
again.
5, but I don't have to say in this, because you're setting your goals.
Is that a goal we would like to set? Anyone else have any input?
Well, rephrase it, please. Specifically, what are you asking us to go over?
To put a quantifiable number in there instead of
Right,
just
I
it
know
being
that, but what is the
nebulous.
number? Just state it. The goal.
Well, his number, why, the superintendent's number was 3 to 5%.
No, give us the goal, word it out, so we can put it in the paper. What is your full
Okay,
thought?
success for the alignment of secondary education, grades 6 through 12. One would be that we will reduce the rate of students at risk by 5%
At risk of what?
of dropping out.
Being retained.
But is that the right word, dropping out, or is it just staying?
Well, you said you wanted, you said the success of the reorganization. Do you mean
Right.
the implementation of the reorganization program, or do you mean the success? You want to set the goal as the success of the
Yeah,
program
I'm
or
gonna
the
start,
implementation?
right, because she's already implemented it. She's already,
Wait a minute, whoa,
Begun it.
thank you.
well, I mean,
It's not completed.
Right.
well, what's not complete about it?
The curriculum piece, the board goal we gave here was to do the administrative piece. Now we have to move into the curriculum side of it. We've set up a looping or a consistent administrative program from 6 through 12 with a direct supervisor, a director of guidance, and put an administrator with each grade level and a guidance counselor with each grade level in our budget. Well, now, when we had the discussion last year, was to now go into a curriculum merger of that implementation.
Okay, well, number 3 says increase the number / percentage of students in grades 6 through 12 participating in more rigorous coursework. That's why I brought up why we're having one less calculus class for this upcoming year. How do we want to quantify that?
If not a lot of kids signed up for it, you don't have a class.
Well-
That's not the superintendent's fault. Why is it the superintendent's fault if kids don't want to take calculus?
Well, why are kids dropping out as the superintendent? You know, I mean, same thing. It's like, the whole point of this reorganization is to,
Is to increase
increase,
calculus?
what?
Is to increase calculus, or?
No,
I'm
well,
all
I mean,
for it. I like
what
calculus.
courses are more rigorous than calculus,
Well, do you
physics?
know if they added other courses?
What?
Do you know if they added other courses by the
I mean,
person
that
that
should
told
be
you they dropped calculus?
when-
Maybe there was more of an interest in other honors level courses.
And you have
And
to
that's
go to-
what happened when I first got on the board.
But how can you say that when it's not even done yet, that the
She
kids
just
are
said all
still
the
being-
she just said all the kids have signed up for
No,
their
no,
course.
no, right,
No?
but they're
Preliminary,
reviewing them
not
for the summer, preliminary, there's
So they don't
no-
really know what their courses
There's
are.
no hard
Go
figures
ahead.
yet, no,
Throw it
not
out.
yet.
Point of order, our topic is to set up board goals. This is seriously off topic.
No, it's not. No, it's not. How is it off goal? There's a goal that's standing out here, which is the complete reorganization of our school system. The board knows precious little about the details of this system, and we are being asked tonight to sit here and decide what our priorities are the year coming forward, and it's damn well within our purview to be discussing how we want to go forward in specifics, because those are the marching orders for the administration. And I'll be damned if we're going to be left behind on this to simply rubber stamp some sort of program, some sort of implementation, what he's asking for are numbers, okay? If the board goal last year was to increase the percent, that's the board goal as written, of students in grades 6 through 12 participating in more rigorous coursework, including but not limited to honors courses, TM, algebra, biology, certainly calculus relates. How do we know if that board goal was met last year?
Point of
But we're
order.
not going over.
Point of order.
No, but if you want to go...
Point of order.
Okay, make your point of order.
This is to set our board goals.
Correct,
Not
Dan.
to review the previous year's board goals or the superintendent. We haven't set that
The
meeting.
chairman of the board presented this Board of Education with last year's goals as a reference for possible continuation of these goals going forward. So how is discussing these goals for 2013 not pertinent to the discussion going forward?
If you wish to continue a particular point of one of these goals going forward, I would highly be interested in listening to which part of
What do you
this.
think we're discussing? What are you listening to, Dan?
I'm listening to you turn around and demand numbers on previous board goals that would be part of a review process.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
If you're
Was
proposing,
the goal met or not met?
Alright.
And if the goal wasn't met, shouldn't we be continuing with the same goal?
What I
isn't that
asked
the
for,
evaluation?
what I had asked for to avoid a lot of this was to get them in advance, so that, well, instead of sitting here for an hour, for Andrew to articulate one board goal that we still haven't finished yet, we could have had all these in writing. We could have quickly gone through them. I mean, as it is now, we're gonna try to finish this goal, and we're gonna set another retreat for August to try to finish this, because we're never gonna get through it by 7 o'clock. We're just running out of time.
And I'm only following up on the assistant chairman of the Board of Education, who says, let's look at how successful.
We don't have a problem with that, we just need you to articulate a goal.
Whether or not these were implemented.
Whether it's still a priority for the board.
And how would you know if
These
they're a
items.
priority if you don't
Well,
have
when I
some
look
type
at
of
the,
data?
when you look at the bullet
Okay.
3, we have
Then-
a full in-depth report on all the AP classes, UConn classes at our board meeting.
We were given all that,
We were given it,
back in
so.
budget season, back in March. So you have that data. You just didn't read it or bring it with you tonight.
No, I'm only hearing what I'm hearing from people.
Why don't you read what you were given from the administration and the school that gives you the hard numbers instead of a rumor that you're getting on the street, Andrew? I mean, I just don't understand
Disprove the
that.
rumor.
What's that?
Just disprove it, just say the rumor is incorrect.
I don't know the rumor, you
I
heard
just
it,
stated the rumor.
that a calculus class was cut?
Right.
But how, now you're making an evaluative decision that don't shake your head, listen to the thought before you judge it. You don't even know the thought yet. Now you're assuming that calculus is more rigorous than history or art.
Yes.
No, you can't say that. In your mind, in your world, yes. But now take an artist and put him in a music class. Put you in advanced cello. Are you gonna succeed at it, Andrew?
Okay.
Is it more rigorous than a regular cello class? I mean, you talk about the Ivy League schools. What do you think
Yes.
the majority of the Ivy League school degrees are in? They're not in calculus. They're in the arts. So, what's that?
No, Wall Street Journal, I think Monday or Saturday, talked about declining rates of majors in the humanities.
Is there?
Yeah, incredible
was that, John?
Yeah, you speak
Wall
up.
Street Journal probably last Saturday, article about the degree to which people majoring in the humanities has dropped, like in half in the last 15 years.
In all schools or just the Ivy League?
Well, they were talking about good schools.
Oh,
Schools that our kids should be aspiring to.
Absolutely.
I have,
And what as,
personal experience.
what as?
Well, it is, but is that because we're
Gone.
cutting arts
What are they
programs
going
because we
for
want more
then?
calculus programs? I mean, where does that start?
Basically,
because kids are
technology
concerned about jobs.
oriented,
Real
practical,
simple.
career oriented things.
Yes.
I mean, I look at the third goal as a commitment from the board to these type of students,
The third bullet
the third goal.
of the first goal.
So I would like to continue rigorous coursework, because I think that should be a goal of servicing students that were not mandated to provide services for. So I would like that board goal continued, because I think it's what we should be striving for.
So under,
Number,
I guess we have Dan's proposed, Dan's articulated goal was to continue our redesign and implementation of Torrington's secondary schools, which could have, similar to what we have on ours, which is aligned secondary education for this past year, and we can have bullet points, which could be, as Andrew put out, a reduction of the at-risk / dropout students by having a 5% or a 3 to 5% or whatever that magical number ends up being. We could have the increase the number / percentage of students participating in more rigorous coursework. I think it's hard to define more rigorous coursework because in my house, the kids all go into arts. And they take art classes and dance and music that I can't do.
So this would be,
I'll take the calculus all day long, but I can't do the other.
so this would be continued increase if I'm hearing the only.
A continued increase, do we want to put a number on that? Or do we want to just keep it as an increase?
We should, without
Yes.
the respect, we ask administrators to require of lower level administrators SMART goals. We've been talking about SMART goals for 2-3 years now. This Board of Education right now is setting forth dumb goals, okay? We're setting forth dumb goals, all right? SMART, right? Measurable is the key, one of the key elements. These goals mean nothing if they're not measurable, so we need, as hard as it is, if this is gonna be a goal, it needs to be measurable. So let's put some numbers to it if we wanna keep it as a goal.
Yeah, and we don't have,
What's the percentage that we feel comfortable realistically the administration should achieve for getting more, driving more kids to higher level? Is it 10% more in these classes?
and that's where I think we need the dialogue with administration and the board to have some reasonable numbers, but numbers that are achievable. And that's all my discussion's really about here, is just to put some type of number to any of our goals, so as when we go at the end of the year to determine whether or not we even met last year's goals before we set next year's goals, we start utilizing a philosophy of putting some type of numbers to quantify what we're expecting. I don't think that's hard
Do
to
you
do.
want that to be registration numbers or passing numbers?
And again, that's probably something that would be great if we could get that type of dialogue to come back.
But at the end of next year, I'm just continuing I'm in agreement with what you're saying, but as we move into next year, by the time we have to do our goals, all right, the number of kids in accelerated classes for the 13-14 school year is already set.
Okay.
There's nothing we can say to the superintendent now that's gonna change that, because the schedules have been signed up for and they're going, right?
No, we just heard.
No, they're signed up for, the students signed up for
They've already
classes.
requested the classes.
Right.
If they have not
Right,
received.
So it would be the registrations next May or June.
Right,
No, they're not, Andrew, they're not finalized, but the
Okay.
kids already put in their course requests,
Okay,
right,
right?
okay.
They did it back in February and March.
Okay.
right.
So you can't set a goal now based on something that happened 4 months ago. So all we would have would be the number of kids next spring that register for more advanced classes.
Okay, then that would be part of our new board's goals.
Right.
Okay.
So all we're talking about
Let's-
now is new board goals. We don't really want to dwell on the old. We want to set our new ones so we can have our speakers in 6 minutes.
Okay,
So if the board is in agreement with this, the board goal number 1 is to continue the redesign and implementation of Torrington's secondary school. And we're going to pull out topics of, well, I mean, the second one, continue development of Well, let's do, you asked for the fourth one, the reduction of the rate of students at risk, but that would be at all grades, not, this one identifies just ninth. You want to change that to all grades, right?
Yeah, change it to all.
Okay, and you want to set a 3 to 5% reduction?
Whatever the, you know, I don't.
We're
Okay.
throwing a number out there.
Let's go
Everybody-
5%, that I think everybody's pretty comfortable with that.
Okay. And,
What was that?
5% is the goal for the reduction of all grades.
at risk or dropout?
Oh,
A total reduction of at-risk students.
And
So
we
the
want
number
it-
of kids retained would go down, like
In
ninth
each
grade?
grade or combined?
It should be each grade, I think. This way we evaluate how each,
Well, I would set it as a total. It should,
Looking at
it would carry
55
down though. If you ask for a 5% reduction, it should be 5% at every level.
That's
Then if you're
55
as an administrator, you see you have a 13% reduction and a 4% increase, you have an administrator or a grade level that you can evaluate.
and that's
As,
why.
as an administrator, that's not our job to evaluate that administrator's work. That's the superintendent to evaluate that administrator.
Yeah, but it's something that we could evaluate as well.
We would know,
Right.
right. We don't have the authority to evaluate other administrators. It's outside of our control.
I say set the bar high, I say set it at 10%.
It's 110 kids.
Yeah.
That's 110 kids. 220
Well,
if you
no,
look
that
at
would be
both
assuming every
schools.
kid's at risk.
Well, you only have, what, 20, we're a less than 20% dropout rate? So you want to cut it to 10 in 1 year? The state can't do
And
I
I'll,
like-
and
I
I'll
like
just,
three
can I
to
just
five because
add
it
another,
gives-
that. I mean,
can I add another element to
Part
it?
of the goal should be at the high, you should set the goal high.
You have to make
And
it
even if you don't make the bar, you
But it
still.
also has to be achievable.
Right.
yeah, you won't
That's
set
the
So
base.
3 to 5, I think, is achievable. 10, I
John, how
would
do you
worry
feel?
with
3 to
10.
5, 10, what are your numbers?
The higher you go, the better. A coach never says run till you're tired. A coach says run.
Until you finish.
Yeah.
Ellen?
Does it determine when,
Yeah. Ellen?
I'm 3 to 5.
Chris?
5. 5, and it should be each grade.
7.
Okay. Fiona?
Push.
I'd
Push.
say
We
3
should
to
be
5.
pushing everybody.
5.
5.
5%. Our second,
5% total or per grade? What was it?
Emily, I suggest each grade.
Okay, that's all right. Well, what is?
It
what
really
does everybody
will-
else think? You want to say a 5% reduction and then,
Well, we don't have dropout rates across the board in every grade level that are equal.
But we have kids at risk at
And-
each grade.
Sure, but we also have kids that are coming into the district
Right.
throughout the course of the year that aren't there at the beginning of the year, but they affect the dropout rate. So it's hard to, I can understand why you wanna do 5 at every grade level. Particularly with the fact that now the administrators will be moving through the grades with the students. So you'd be able to see whether that administrator kept the same 5% this year, next year, and the year after. Which would make a very valid assumption.
See, I think this is a good tool for for the superintendent to agree with as far as her own process of tweaking what she's doing. I mean, clearly, as we all know, this is innovative, and I would think you would want to accumulate this data as well. And I think the fact that the board is willing to put in writing as a board goal, all the administrators know what we expect of
Becomes
you
their
and what you
goal.
expect of them.
let's just poll. Across the board or by the grade?
Sure, I'll go for 5 by grade.
By grade?
Paul?
By grade.
By grade.
Yeah, by grade. Across the board.
Across the board.
Grade, 5% per grade, all right. Making progress. Our next one was Fiona asked to keep in, increase the number/% of students in grades 6 through 12 participating in more rigorous coursework, including but not limited, blah, 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 blah.
To continue
To continue
to
that.
increase. Can we add
Set that to
continue
the same percentage.
All right, same
5.
percentage, 5%.
I think that shows that we're serious about helping not just at-risk students,
Okay.
but we're holding the same standard to our
Same by
higher-
grade? Well, I don't know if you can
Yeah,
do
but
that,
you can't
because
do
they're really not gonna
Yeah.
get to the more aggressive stuff till they get,
So across the board.
But also those classes are already signed up for, you said, right? I mean,
Well, this would be
yeah.
for next year's
To
registration.
show us next year's registration
Right.
at the end of the year.
So we're looking
Following
at
year.
budget.
Because in
Okay.
theory, the teachers and the administrators would push students throughout the year as an ability to
So then that
register for
should
those.
be clarified then.
5% across the board. Because, I mean, sixth grade, I don't know how many advanced, can you really create 5% seventh grade advanced
Right,
classes?
across the board.
Would you agree with
For
that?
the 14, 15.
Well, figure 35 current classes, a 5% increase is roughly 2 classes. So 2 additional classes added in, I think that's realistic.
But that's a result of something. I mean, students taking these classes are a result of them doing better in other classes. So I don't see how you can set that goal for next year unless, you understand what I'm saying? It's a result of something. So we need to do something to have them to sign up those classes just because we offer them. I mean, what's that quantifying? That we just offering more or that?
Well,
Well,
I
not the
would,
number of classes, just the number of students.
Right.
Right, it's the number of students in each.
Right.
The goal
If
is,
you have
of course,
10
to
people,
increase
you
the
gotta
number of
add.
classes as well, but if we're talking just
So
students.
for
God
the
bless
flash,
you.
the 14, 15 registration,
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that needs to be.
So percentage of students enrolled.
yeah, in the 14, 15 registration. Right?
so 5% increase in the number of students registering
Yeah.
for 14,
Right.
15.
Right.
What's the only,
Sounds better.
it's the only yardstick we'll have because the registration for this year is currently done.
And
And if it's the T and the SMART, which is time limited, then it's not just the on and on and on.
And we also have the internship and apprentice opportunities, so those would all come into play too.
Right,
No,
okay.
When we talk of rigorous, I don't necessarily, not to contradict what I was saying as far as the example of the calculus, but by rigorous, it would be great if we can get some type of measurement of a kid, of a student who is in general math. But by rigorous, how do you get that, how do you somehow show that that math class becomes more rigorous? Even though it's whatever, elementary math, high school freshman math or whatever. How can we get some type of, again, measurement that as our entire curriculum progresses and evolves, every class becomes more rigorous. So it's not necessarily the calculus. The calculus, we may not have any problem with it being rigorous. The 10 kids or the 20, they're like all doing great and it's as rigorous as any calculus class in this thing. But how about that general math class as a freshman? How do we get you to put some, okay, I mean, I know you're thinking of these things, but we as a board, we should have some way of you giving us some numbers and us accepting that as a reasonable board goal for concept of rigorousness.
Okay. And what's difficult, what is so, going to be so difficult this year, is that with the movement to smarter balance, okay, assessments, state, they're actually national assessments that our students will be taking. They're not even gonna count them next year on the state level, because they know that every school district with these new assessments, their scores and grades and where students are landing will probably drop significantly. And so, with, we'll know that if we have more students taking honors, AP, early college, courses for credit, if we have greater number of students taking those and successfully passing them, then we will know that we have more students taking more rigorous classes. The hard part of using standardized assessments, such as we've based upon with the CMP and the CAP testing, we're not gonna be doing it next year. So that means we have to look at a whole, the state is going to give us what they call a school improvement index and district index, and it's going to demonstrate how many students have improved, that's what they're looking for, improved to achieving these standards. But they haven't even figured it out yet, how they're going to quantify it. But with the new teacher and administrator evaluations, there are both teachers with their classes and both administrators with their school or grade level will have to show a percent of increase based on assessments. Just what those assessments will be to be determined.
I would like to see added, keeping in that same thing, is the one to continue to develop curriculum at lower levels to allow more kids to get to the level 5s, the AP, the UConns. I'd like to see the district move some of the standard stuff down so that there's more room in the junior and senior year for the kids to get there. You know, if you start a kid, like I said, you want kids to take a 5th level of a language, but if there's only 4 years of high school, you're not gonna have kids in French, Latin, Italian, 5, you're just not gonna have it. You know, and our numbers are very low, but we have, most of our kids don't start their language until high school. They can't get to number 5. It's just physically impossible. So, would you support adding that in there to continue to look at curriculum to move down? You got that one, Cheryl?
It'd be great if we could ensure they get geometry before they get tested on
Yeah, that'd be,
it. Be helpful.
That leads to something I've been talking about, which is now with this merger, or whatever you want to call it, between TMS and THF, will there be more change? Will 7th graders be able to take high school classes at the point in which what was a traditional high school class, but they're in 7th grade or they're 6th grade, but they're ready to take that freshman high school
that would be the
English
intent.
part. So now we're going to have much more interchangeability of students' ability to go back and forth. And on the flip side then, would students who are technically freshmen in high school or sophomore in high school, but they're only at 7th grade math, will they be able to keep their status as a sophomore in high school, but continue to take the class at the middle school?
Those are good questions that we have to figure out how to do it.
But
Because I'm not gonna
We'll make that part of the
physically.
curriculum piece.
Yeah.
What's that?
We'll make that part of the expansion of the curriculum between the two schools.
Well, that's
But
why
you
I would like
never
a more
wanna-
definition of just what this
You,
alignment of 6. I'm not, again, I'm not opposed to
all
what you're
of,
saying, I'm
no,
just saying.
but
there's-
all of this,
And it should be a goal, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the curriculum piece, to get
Okay.
it spread out and straightened out between the different grade levels of what kids can and can't take, how we can move. You know, the example we had of the kid taking a geometry class from the middle school this year. There should be able to be 30 kids taking geometry from the middle school. Vincent just resent me his goals, go over them real quick.
I did send you 5.
No, I know,
And I wanna say, if Carl and I are the only 2 people on this board who have sent you goals, that's.
3, Dan did.
That's sad. It is. I'm sad,
All right.
everybody.
Reorganizing the importance of community engagement, proper community education. The Torrington Board of Education will work to improve transparency and welcome a more open line of communication within the district. Number 2, to help expand our curriculum offered to our students to help expand enrichment. Torrington BOE will actively seek more community partnerships within our community and surrounding communities. Recognizing the exponential changes in technology, the Torrington BOE will comprehensively assess the access, quality, and diversity of technology that we offer to our students in order to have a comprehensive approach to wellness in our community, which is why I knew it was his. The Torrington BOE will adopt a wellness policy that will mandate healthier school meals, increase the duration, and improve the quality of physical education in our schools, and work to facilitate the implementation of school-based health clinics that will provide preventative and wellness services to our underserved populations.
And a point of order, I believe our attorneys are there,
So
they're on point.
it's okay. And we will continue with a board retreat sometime in August to complete our board goals. We will move on to,
Do we officially need to move to table this agenda?
Yes.
item?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to offer a motion that we table the Board of Education goal-setting agenda item until a meeting to be determined in August.
Second.
all those in favor? Opposed? None? Okay. On to number 4. Let's get our